During the session, I'll be starting from Water Temple. For the most part, I'll be going around gathering the small keys that are spread throughout the dungeon. And that is the final key for this version of the dungeon. Deku Nuts are very useful in the fight against Dark Link. If you can pivot and throw the Deku Nuts about 90 degrees away from Dark Link, he'll be staggered. This will give you enough time to get a jump attack on him. And it's also good to remember that Dark Link's HP is the same as yours. Only having 5 hearts meant that Dark Link only took 3 jump attacks to kill. I realize at this moment I still do not have Song of Time and Ocarina of Time. This means I will not be able to access the river portion of Water Temple, and I will have to come back here later, assuming there is even a useful item in there. The beginner preset only requires you to save one of the carpenters in order to complete the thieves' hideout. The bridge will be repaired upon rescuing the one carpenter, and you will be rewarded with the Gerudo's card for doing so. There are two rewards to be claimed from the Garuda Archery. One for getting 1,000 points, one for getting 1,500 points. If you get 1,500 points on the first attempt, you'll be given both rewards. Went for a quick visit to Gerudo Training Grounds. Unfortunately, there wasn't much to be accomplished here. As far as I remember, I was only able to receive one key. Giant's Mess is going to be expected for the Twin Mold fight later on. With the equipment I have, Forest Temple should be fully accessible. In order to drain the well in the Forest Temple this seed, I actually had to go into the well backwards using iron boots. Once I was out on the other side, I was able to enter the map room and then hit the switch to drain the well. Significant upgrade to the hook shot is going to be needed for the remainder of the run. I'd already received a hint earlier that powder keg is not going to be required, so any locations that powder keg opens will not be necessary to visit. And that's one of the 4 requirements going to be needed to fight Majora in Majora's Mask. Take note that I also need all 3 spiritual stones in order to access the new Wave Bossa Nova song, which will be required to get into Great Bay Temple in Majora's Mask. For this seed, it means that all boss rewards are going to be required to complete it. Now another transformation mask has been acquired. This gives me more access to Majora's Mask. Earlier I had received a hint that the beavers had the Deku mask as their race reward. Unfortunately, this was not the case. I was deceived with this trap instead. There is a reward in Zora Hall that is extremely easy to overlook. This is because in the vanilla game, this is simply a blue rupee reward. However, this rupee is in fact shuffled with all of the other items in this randomizer. Light arrows are a necessary item for progressing in Stone Tower, as well as defeating Ganon at the end of the game. In the vanilla game of Majora's Mask, in order to get access to the rest of the road to Icona, you will need to use Garo's Mask and show it to the Poe Hunter in order to get this tree to spawn. However, Garo's Mask is not the only way to access this. If you have Gibdo's Mask, this will also grant you access to the upper road to Icona. Second strength upgrade found in Secret Shrine. This will open up more access to Spirit Temple once I am able to get to it. Kamaro's Mask is not very significant as it only has one check behind it. Mirror Shield is going to be required to defeat all of the enemies in the Igos to Icona fight. And with Requiem of Spirit, I am able to access the Desert Colossus. The other way to do this would be to have Longshot and Lens of Truth in order to go across the Haunted Wasteland, but since I do not have a Lens of Truth yet, Requiem will be a much quicker way to Spirit Temple. Just another bottle from beneath the well. Unfortunately, there was not much else here. Within the base logic of the randomizer, you will be expected to find Stone of Agony before accessing any of the hidden grottos. However, there is a trick that can be enabled that you will be expected to know where the grotto locations are, regardless of having Stone of Agony or not. Now with access to Spirit Temple, we'll be going through gathering keys along the way and hopefully finding more significant items. The switch on the child side can be accessed with the slingshot with a really precise shot. Normally, I believe you would be expected to use the boomerang, but this can be a quicker way to get across the bridge before the Stalfos gets in your way. And the Mirror Shield chest turned out to be the boss key for Spirit Temple. Not a whole lot else of significance in Spirit Temple, however, defeating the boss is required in the Seed, so that's what I'm going to do. With Stone of Agony in possession, I'm now going to go around in Ocarina of Time and check as many of the hidden grottos as I can, at least the ones that have valuable checks. And with Lens of Truth in hand, any locations that have invisible pathways or invisible chests will now be within the logic and be expected to be checked. Light arrows in hand, quite a bit of Stone Tower Temple will be accessible. There will be some portions that I cannot cross due to the lack of Deku Mask. Unfortunately, a wasted attempt in order to try and get some more magic. And now with my Kokiri sword for Ocarina of Time, I am able to get past Mido and enter the Deku Tree. The beginner preset uses an option that allows you to gain access to the boss warp so long as you have the boss remains on hand. Since I found Twin Mold's remains earlier in the seed, I now have access to the boss fight prematurely. The other option for this is to have the dungeon beaten, meaning that you must have access to the boss key and defeat the dungeon before you can get access to the boss warp. Periodically attempting to take pot shots with the bow against the tails of Twin Mold. Unfortunately, the damage output is only 1 point of damage without elemental arrows that match their weakness, so this is going to take a longer amount of time until I get magic. I became very negligent with my health during this boss fight and just tanked hits, thinking that I had a bit more healing resources. Unfortunately, it turns out that the bottles I had in Nimtora's Mask were empty. For 7 minutes, I was being deprived of magic. Fortunately, I was able to finish the fight without dying and having to redo this encounter. This boss fight turned out to have quite a good number of items, as this is the first bomb bag I was able to get access to. We're also going to receive the Fire Medallion as well as a song. This is not a very useful song, but it is a convenient song nonetheless. Completely neglected to remember that I do have Zelda's Lullaby access, which means I do have access to that too. And another song will be available in here. Making my way back to Dodongo's cavern, I had been neglecting this location because it had been brought up in a hint that this is a foolish location, meaning none of the major checks here are going to actually have any value to progressing the seed. However, King Dodongo does still need to be defeated in order for the seed to be completed. Back in Kokiri Forest, with Kokiri's sword in hand from Stone Tower Temple, I'm able to get past Mido and now gain access to the Deku Tree. But here entering the Deku Tree is where I ended the session, and we'll be picking up the next time I do a recording.